Hey everybody, it's Josh. I just wanted to talk for a minute about children. I have 3 kids, and kids are a very important part of my life, and I know others' lives as well. And, well, they're an important part of the world, obviously. And I've noticed parents who have children tend to be a little more tolerant of shortcomings of others. And that could just be my own perceptions. But having children tends to humble a person and allow them to see the world a little differently. And my thoughts on kids are, when we watch children play, we think of them as almost helpless, needing adults, and to a certain extent they are. But when I look at parents, I see many of them as helpless to their children's whims as well. We want our children to be happy. In order to do that, they need the freedom to express themselves. In other words, a kid can teach an adult just as much, if not more, than an adult could teach a kid about what's really important. So I wanted to read this quick, it's a Department of Health survey that they commissioned, and I wanted to read what they've come in about kids here. So I'll just read it. It says, a Department for Health commissioned survey in 2004 concluded that 1 in 10 British children aged 5 to 16 are diagnosed with mental disorders. Childhood stress, psychological problems, and self-abuse are increasing. Gone are the days when kids could run free all day and play. Urbanization has had many implications for childhood play, but at the core of humanity are still hunter-gatherers and need to seek out knowledge and being social through experience and discovery. Through play, children develop an emergent sense of competence, feelings of belonging, usefulness, and subsequent well-being. When deprived of play, children lack social connectivity and have less mental wellness. Is a lack of play contributing to dysfunctional society? Childhood free play is the basis on which individuals develop many crucial social skills which equip them for intricacies of life in adult communities. UNICEF states, free play in peer groups helps children learn and practice the control of aggression, the management of conflict, the earning of respect and friendship, discussions of feelings, appreciations of diversity, and awareness of the needs of the feelings of others. With play at the core of children's social development, why are we continually degrading it? Play is a global universal. Throughout evolution, it has always been important. The authors urge UK-US policymakers to rethink and reinstate the importance of play versus adult-led learning. They conclude that increased opportunities for free play are key to organic development of a healthy generation. The above story is based on materials provided by Taylor and Francis, edited for content and length. I don't know how much more I could agree with that. I think that kind of goes without saying, and it's kind of obvious to many of us. I just want to read one more here. This is a different story. Just like adults, children as young as 3 tend to judge an individual's character traits, such as trustworthiness and competence, simply by looking at the person's face. New research shows. And they show remarkable consensus in the judgments they make, the findings suggest. The research, led by psychological scientist Emily Cogsdill of Harvard University, shows that the predisposition to judge others based on physical features starts early in childhood and does not require years of social experience. The study is published in Psychological Science, a journal of the Association for Psychological Science. Prior research has shown that the adults regularly use faces to make judgments about the character traits of others, even with only a brief glance. But it is unclear whether this tendency is one that slowly builds as a result of life experiences or is instead a more fundamental impulse that emerges early in life. If adult-child agreement in face-to-trait inferences emerges gradually across development, one might infer that these inferences require prolonged social experience to reach an adult-like state. They write, if instead young children's inferences are like those of adults, this would indicate that face-to-trait character influences are a fundamental social cognitive capacity that emerges early in life. Well, that says a lot right there, people. It goes on to say, to explore these ideas, the researchers had 99 adults and 141 children, ages 3 to 10, evaluate pairs of computer-generated faces that differed on one of 3 traits: trustworthiness, dominance, and competence, After being shown a pair of faces, participants may be asked, for example, to judge which one of the people is very nice. As expected, the adults showed consensus on the traits they attributed to specific faces, and so did the children. Children ages 3 to 4 were only slightly less consistent in their assessment than were 7-year-olds, but the older children's judgments were in as much agreement as adults, indicating a possible developmental trend. Overall, children seem to be most consistent in judging trustworthiness compared to the other two traits. This suggests that the children may tend to pay particular attention to the demeanor of a face, that is, whether it is broadly positive or negative. Importantly, the findings do not address the question of whether the judgments the children are making are accurate inferences of character. Rather, they simply demonstrate that adults and children are consistent in the traits they attribute to faces, irrespective of the validity of those judgments. That was based on the Association for Psychological Science. And that right there, to me, shows that a very obvious factor. You know, these are the things that we know, that kids can already assume what a face is thinking, what a person is thinking. And kids are very aware. And I don't think some folks give them enough credit. But, you know, that just goes on to say that basically, you know, kids know when you're bullshitting them. Let's put it that way. You know, kids know when a parent's lying. Kids know when a parent is not being reasonable, not being just. And too many parents think they can just pull the wool over their kids' eyes and fool them. Well, I don't. I think that kids are very, very, very much more intelligent than we ever gave them credit for. And as far as the first little part of that thing goes about the play, let your kids play, damn it. That's what kids want to do. That's what kids need to do. If I hadn't played as a kid, I would not have some of the social experiences I have. And it's really sad that we want kids to grow up in this dog-eat-dog society with nothing more than a get one over on the neighbor type attitude. You know, be smarter than the next guy, be better than the next guy. And the reason we can promote that is by giving them a fearful atmosphere to grow up in. Look at the news. Look at what's happening. This guy got shot. These people burned up. And all the dangers that we're faced with, and we don't tend to bring to the table the obvious comforts with which we live. But let your kids play. Peace, everybody. Hope you're doing well.